G20 सम्मेलन की मेज़बानी इस बार साउथ अफ्रीका करने जा रहा है। साउथ अफ्रीका के जोहान्सबर्ग में ये समिट अब से कुछ दिनों बाद होने जा रहा है और प्रधानमंत्री मोदी इस सम्मेलन में शामिल होने के लिए साउथ अफ्रीका जाएंगे। हमारे साथ बात करने के लिए साउथ अफ्रीका के हाई कमिश्नर अनिल सुकलाल हैं। सर, मोस्ट वेलकम टू न्यूज़ इन इंडिया।
Thank you, Shailendra. It's always a privilege being on the news.
So, sir, is Johannesburg all set to host G20 summit?
Well, let me at the very outset, before I speak about Johannesburg and the G20 summit, once again express the deepest condolences of the South African government and the people of South Africa to the Indian government and the people of India on the Red Fort explosion that took place, which is now been seen as a terrorist act. Our deepest condolences to the families that lost loved ones, and we wish a speedy recovery for all those injured. And we want to reiterate that South Africa stands in solidarity with India during this difficult time, and we once again want to state in the strongest terms that there is no place for terrorism in this civilized world, and it must be condemned wherever it happens and whenever it happens.
So, about the G20 summit, so is Johannesburg ready to host the summit?
We fully prepared. We're looking forward to hosting the summit and for the leaders of the G20 to converge in Johannesburg to what promises to be a very eventful and substantial summit. And we are very pleased that Prime Minister Modi will join the summit in South Africa.
So, what are you expecting if Prime Minister Modi is supposed to go to South Africa to attend the summit? What are you expecting from his visit to South Africa?
Well, Prime Minister Modi, as a very influential global leader, and India as a very important and powerful country, the presence at the summit, I think, also signifies solidarity with South Africa, and the participation of Prime Minister in India is critical for the success of the summit. We have worked closely with India during India's presidency, and India has worked closely with South Africa during our tenure over these past almost 12 months since we took over the presidency. So we are quite confident, as has been the case throughout the years, and in all of the ministerial meetings, the major groupings that have met, the Sherpa track, the finance track, India has been very supportive of South Africa's priorities. And as countries of the Global South, we have a common vision of what we would like to see emanate as substantive outcomes from the G20 summit.
As US is the biggest global economy, and in the light of President Trump's recent statements regarding South Africa hosting the G20 summit, how will South Africa ensure the success of this summit when he said that it's a total disgrace that it's being held in South Africa?
Well, I think these are unfortunate statements. They are statements of one country. As you know, the G20 is a collective of 19 countries and 2 regional organizations. And the G20, since its inception in 2008 at the level of summit in Washington, it was the USA that brought us together at the level of summit, at the first summit. And the USA has played an important and pivotal role in the G20 becoming the global force that it is today. And it's unfortunate that President Trump and the USA has decided not to be at the table, because based on South Africa's own experience, despite the diversity of views that we had in South Africa leading up to a democratic dispensation, one of the things we believed in is that by exchanging views, sitting around the table and talking about issues, that is how we were able to find a solution to our challenges. And this is what the world needs at the present time, including for the USA to be in dialogue with all member states of the G20 and address our common challenges as a collective.
And on the allegations of President Trump that he said that Afrikaners are being killed and slaughtered and their land and farms are being illegally confiscated.
Well, as President Ramaphosa himself pointed out to President Trump earlier this year when he visited the White House, these are unfounded allegations. There is no evidence that this is happening in South Africa. And that is why it's important for President Trump to have visited South Africa so that he can see firsthand for himself. During his first tenure as president, he never visited the African continent. And now he's president again. It's an opportunity as a responsible member and an important member of the G20 for him to have gone to South Africa and seen for himself, are these allegations real? And he would have found out that these are false allegations and that we don't have such a situation in South Africa. On the contrary, you would have seen the African Union issued a statement this past few days, once again demonstrating that South Africa is a responsible member of the global community. We are a vibrant democracy. Democracy has been entrenched. The rule of law is entrenched in South Africa. It's a constitutional democracy. And this is clear evidence that South Africa, as the largest economy on the African continent, is a responsible member not only of the African continent, of the global community. The fact that we sit in the G20 as the only African country that is a full member of the G20, this is not by coincidence. It is because the global community recognized the value that South Africa brings to the G20, not just in its capacity as South Africa, but as a country that is highly regarded within the African continent, within the global south, and I would say internationally as well by our partners in the global north.
Coming back to the India-South Africa ties, with bilateral trade hitting almost $18 billion in this financial year, what new steps can New Delhi and Pretoria take to further enhance the investment ties?
Well, I think the visit of Prime Minister Modi is important. This is Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to South Africa since he took office, and I think that's significant. He will have a bilateral meeting with President Ramaphosa. They know each other very well. They have met not only bilaterally, they meet on the margins of major multilateral meetings like BRICS, and as is going to be the case now when Prime Minister Modi is in South Africa, he's not only attending the G20 summit, there's also going to be an IPSA summit, India, Brazil, South Africa summit. And I think when the leaders meet, one of the major focus area is deepening economic interaction between ourselves. We have seen a sharp rise in our trade between our two countries, but the potential to grow this is vast. And since I arrived in India just over a year ago, there's not a day that goes past when I'm not interacting with the business sector. There's a great deal of buoyancy, a great deal of confidence, not just in South Africa, but the African continent. And India, of course, was responsible for getting the African Union into the G20 during your presidency in 2023. So India regards Africa as an important partner, and South Africa, as you know, is the most important trading partner on the African continent. And we are going to see significant investments on both sides, movement on both sides. We have about 150 Indian companies in South Africa, and we have just over 20 plus South African companies here, but increasingly. In fact, there's been requests from some of the major multinationals when Prime Minister Modi is in South Africa to have interaction with him. So we firmly believe that trade between our two countries and investment is on a good sound footing, and it will continue to grow significantly.
Not only G20, but also we have seen President Trump criticizing the BRICS grouping and viewing it as a threat to the US economic dominance and the dollar, of course. So in this context of Trump's anti-BRICS stance, what can India and South Africa do to improve ties and get things back on track?
Well, I think it's important that India will take over the chairship of BRICS in January 2026. And I firmly believe that BRICS is a very important platform, not just of the Global South. BRICS today has gone beyond just the Global South. BRICS today is providing leadership, and BRICS has grown to be a very influential global platform. You have witnessed the expansion of BRICS during South Africa's chairship in 2023. We are now 10 full member states. We have 11 partner countries. We account for over 50% of the global population. In terms of PPP, GDP, we are bigger than the G7. In terms of global manufacturing and output, we are over 25%, and that continues to grow. So BRICS is on the ascendancy, and the rise of BRICS is the rise of the Global South. And this creates discomfort in certain quarters because the world has been dominated by a few hegemonic countries that has prevented countries of the Global South from reaching the full potential. And they'd like to see us remain at levels of development that is suitable for their beliefs. But the rise of BRICS in the Global South is something that's unstoppable, and I think it's the anxiety more than anything else about the potential of BRICS and countries like India, China, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, rising at the pace they are rising. And the fastest growth in the world today is coming from the Global South. And this is what makes countries of the global north uneasy, that they are losing this dominance they had on the global geopolitical, financial and economic architecture. And this is what the criticism about BRICS is. It's the fear factor, that you have now this massive force. It's like a speed train that's gaining momentum, and it's unstoppable, irrespective of what different leaders that see BRICS as a threat may see. But BRICS is a force for global good. BRICS is working in an inclusive manner, and if you look at all of the BRICS summit, there's no finger pointing against any country, unlike some of the configurations of the global north. When leaders meet, they are always pointing fingers and criticizing other parts of the world and other countries. BRICS believe in being inclusive, and it will continue to grow. And I firmly believe that it is the BRICS countries, the global south, that will be the chief architects of the multipolar order that is currently being unraveled as we speak of a new global architecture.
High Commissioner Suklal, as the first South African High Commissioner of Indian origin, can you just tell us about your ancestral roots and family history from India that have shaped your personal and professional journey?
Well, I always say that I'm very fortunate that I have within myself multiple personalities coexisting in harmony. I have Indian roots. I'm born and raised in South Africa, so Africa is my homeland, and I have had a Western education. So in me, you see a blending of the West, the best of India, and the best of Africa. As you know, during the British period, soon after the abolition of slavery in 1834, the British had to find new forms of labor. And where would they find new forms of cheap labor to keep the empire prosperous? It's from its colonies. So India, as being the crown of the British colony, was the provider of net labor movement. And you saw, starting with Mauritius in 1834, what we call indentured labor going to Mauritius and then to the Caribbean and then to South Africa and to Fiji. Now, from 1860 to 1911, over 150,000 Indians were sent to South Africa to work on the sugar fields. So my history is part of that history. At the end of 1892, my great-grandparents went from a village in Ghazipur to go and work on the sugar plantation in the province where I was born, KwaZulu-Natal, which was the heart of our sugar plantation. And that's my roots. I'm fourth generation Indian. And interestingly, this past week I went for the first time to Ghazipur. And of course, one of the things that was well preserved in terms of the movement of Indians to different parts of the world as indentured laborers was the records. So I had the name of the city and the village, and it was the first time that someone from my family visited Ghazipur since my ancestors left, and it was a very emotional moment for me because I had to deliver a lecture on from roots to roots. And I've always maintained that when you uproot a plant from where it is, you can take out a plant from Ghazipur and go and plant it in Durban in South Africa. But that roots carry with it the DNA of the soil of Ghazipur. So in me you will see the DNA of Ghazipur and the DNA of Bharat. As much as I am African, I'm also in.
So just one last question to you. We know the Indian and South African cricket ties. There are a lot of tournaments going to happen between. The Test series going to happen. What chance does South Africa have this time before India?
Well, we have to avenge our twin defeats. Twice now we have met at World Cup, and congratulations to the Indian women's team. I was extremely pleased that South Africa and India met in the finals. And this is also about the rise of the global south in the sporting arena. And I must say it was an excellent match, and you have a powerful women's team, and I think South Africa did very well. And now with the upcoming cricket test, as you know, we are great rivals on the field, and I'm confident India is going to do well, but South Africa will do better.
थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टेकिंग आउट टाइम फॉर अस। तो ये थे दक्षिण अफ्रीका के हाई कमिश्नर अनिल सुखलाल, जिन्होंने हमसे कुल मिला के बात की कि किस तरह से G20 समिट में इस बार प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जाएंगे और क्या कुछ वहाँ पर होने वाला और किस तरह से जोहान्सबर्ग तैयारी कर रहा है G20 समिट के लिए।